Gators Breakdown, episode 113 is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown is Bill King from The Bill King Show in Nashville, Tennessee. You can find Bill Monday through Friday in the morning, 7 to 10 Eastern, for the best college football talk. No one does it like Bill King. Bill King, thank you so much for joining me here again on Gators Breakdown.
Dave, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I join you weekly, and we've discussed Gators ad nauseum, but it seems to be getting uglier as time rolls on.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody here recently after Saturday. Florida looked like a team that had been placed in a really crappy bowl game that they didn't want to be at. And we see that in bowl season. No energy, no want, no enthusiasm. Anything you saw was fake, if there was any enthusiasm. No desire to compete hard, play after play. It was about as bad as I've seen, and it's a shame.
It really is, Bill. And before we dive in, remember you can find all your Gators Breakdown episodes on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Search on desktop to get the links by following Gators Breakdown on Twitter and on Facebook at Gators Breakdown. Bill, I mean, was it a simple explanation for you? You know, you look at it different than us Gator fans do, and it's obvious the team wasn't focused, as you saw, but did it really look like some of them have given up as well? You know, that's the scary thing. It's hard to gauge giving up, but you can see out there that those guys, like you said, it looked like they just really did not want to be there.
Right. I think we can play with the term given up, but they certainly weren't going full force. You could tell that. There's no desire. The absolute energy and excitement has been sucked out of them. Now, they still should go compete. That's what you're there for. No matter what has happened, you ought to go compete. But this looks like a deflated, beat down, tired of bad news group of football players, and they're not responding at all to it well. And I got to say, that there may be a little bit of sympathy from me, but frankly, you need to go out and compete, and they didn't show us anything there. And that was the disappointing. I thought that game would be tough because Missouri's playing some pretty good football, and that offense is tough to handle. So from that point of view, I wasn't surprised that it would be a good game. Maybe Missouri could pull it out, but just an out-and-out dominating score was an embarrassment.
Yeah, especially from the defensive side of the ball, Bill, where we expected, Florida to be okay this season, and then it was another game, 2 games in a row, where they just got completely ran over. And, Missouri is not a power run team by any chance or by any stretch of the imagination, but it certainly looked like it when they played Florida. So that's when I kind of knew when, the first couple of drives and they were running down Florida's throat that, this is not right. Those guys don't want to be there. Yes, it was a tough week. We know with the firing of Jim McElwain, but it was clear as day they didn't want to be there. So, Bill, and you and I, we've discussed on your show many times how Jim McElwain acted this past season in front of the media, after games, in his press conferences, just how he acted just in general. There was a lot of woe is me attitude and very little accountability coming from his side. Do you think that at some point bled over into the program from the top down?
Well, in retrospect, he was cracking up, I think, Michigan game forward. He just looked feeble. He was shaky in his speech. Everything appeared as if he was about to break down and cry, literally. And obviously the season to date has had a lot of obstacles off the field, etc. And I would think that outward lack of leadership we were seeing, and his shakiness, and just his fragileness, the appearance there has to bleed over. That is your leader, and he was not leader-like at all. And that's what we were witnessing. Now, I remember early games, I would see it, but it really didn't occur to me. I'm thinking, okay, emotional, hoped you won the game, things going on off the field. But in retrospect, it was building from the very beginning. And then we saw it completely unravel down the stretch here. But yeah, I think absolutely, Dave, that could bleed over to your team and infiltrate the team and cause them some shakiness as well.
Yeah, but I was like you. I defended him a little bit, was going to that because go back to the summer and then the shark photo that was that blew up and it got
right.
really personal for him and his family, and okay, it started with that, and then Georgia was picked to win the SEC, and then he wanted to play the underdog card, but then he hyped up this offensive line, he hyped up this offense, and the suspensions come before the season, and you mentioned getting blown out by Michigan. It kind of seemed to snowball once that shark photo came out. It was kind of a snowball effect. It started there, and Jim McElwain just had to constantly just talk more than just about football. And I agree. I think it got to him. It got to these guys, and what we saw a couple weeks ago with the death threats, that was the final straw. And I think it was a two-sided thing. I don't think he wanted to be at Florida any longer. And after that death threat statement, it was just really time for the two sides to come together and figure something out to get this program back on the right track.
Somebody said something to me a few weeks ago, and I kind of sloughed it off. I absorbed it, but I didn't allow it to formulate an opinion in my brain. But somebody said, this job's too big for Mac. And I didn't pay much attention, but it turns out that was right. It was too enormous for him. Whatever it might be, whether it's the off-the-field stuff, some of the oddities, it was too overwhelming. He could get you in a week east to a couple of championship games. Not competitive in the game, but due to probably more the East being down before now Georgia rising, he fell into those Eastern Division spots. He was no longer going to be able to sustain that. We know that. We're watching it. And he was not going to fix that abruptly next year either if he were to come back to the point where they were going to be better than Georgia. Now, obviously, Tennessee's going to have to go out and get a new coach. They haven't announced it, but they're going to do it. So it was just too big for him. And I guess, I don't know if you ever know that until you give it a shot, but it just was cracking him. And I think, obviously I'm not in communication with him, but I would think he's probably relieved this is over. He and his family. I'm guessing, but I would think so.
Bill, to go back a little bit, how will Jim McElwain be remembered? For you look at it nationally, and look at this in this Florida program nationally, but you can focus in on the team better than anybody out there. I've done it. My co-host has done it. You have as well. In warning about the lack of recruiting under his regime, his first two seasons, and now he looked like he was finally starting to turn around. But it's not as if it was terrible recruiting, but it was mid-ranking in conference and not used to getting the top guys. The top 100, the top 250, the top 200 guys. Those guys weren't coming to Florida any longer, and eventually caught up to him.
He'll be remembered by me as a guy who had his hands on what I think is maybe the best college football job in America, and he couldn't take the resources and do anything with it. I think at Florida, a top 10 recruiting class would be a down year. I think you have a top 10 class on a year where a lot of things didn't go your way, whether it's on recruiting and on that trail or whether it's on the field and the presentation. It's that kind of gig. And for the life of me, that will never be explained other than they were pretty good at recruiting, but not what you ought to be at Florida. See, everybody's not equal. And I don't treat Florida. Florida can absolutely be 9-3, and it's not good enough. There are not a whole lot of teams you can say that about. I used to say it about Georgia, too. I said it under Jim Diamond. I said it under Ray Goff. And then, of course, Mark Richt was better than them, but he couldn't get them to that next level. Now he's doing a heck of a job at Miami right now. And it was time. That was an amicable divorce. So a different situation. But at Florida, you've got no excuses. Now, on top of that, Dave, it's difficult to hold up under the pressure of win big, even when you have all the resources. Not everybody's cut out for that. There's not many Nick Sabans and Urban Meyers who can handle that kind of stress. And some people probably listening say, well, Urban didn't handle too well down the stretch in Florida either, but you know, he's kind of repaired the resume more recently with the championship there in 14. But my point would be, it's not cut out for everybody. We found out about him that he just did not have that. He could be a P5 coach where it's not win or die, or a non-P5 coach. Probably do a pretty good job, but not this level of scrutiny. Can't handle it.
Phil, you kind of read my mind where I wanted to go next, and how it ended with him and the pressure we hear about the Florida head coaching position. Will it be tougher finding the next coach with that reputation that's out there about Florida, the pressure cooker that this job is?
Oh, I don't think that's a problem. That probably weeds out all the weak folks, but Florida's not going to be searching for them anyways. Competitors, these guys, the really good coaches are competitors. They're not worried about what might have happened. They want their hands on the golden goose to win really big. Now, maybe that job's not for everybody to go past 8 years or something. Whoever gets it, maybe that's just the way it's going to be. It's still a ridiculously good job. So, no, the true competitor says, man, just give me that job. Let me do my thing there with the resources at Florida, and I'll kick some tail. And now I do think Florida probably will end up with a guy that you're going to have to project some. I don't really think there are any available guaranteed hires. You got to remember, when Spurrier, now I just gloated about Spurrier when Florida hired him, and I caught a lot of grief about it because he'd been at Duke and what's Duke and all that. I caught a lot of that. I knew that would be a great hire. Urban Meyer was a 100% lock to do a good job. There was never a question about that. You're not going to get a guy like that, I don't think. But you can get a guy who can win big there, like a Scott Frost or whoever they might end up with. And I think the next guy probably will do a very good job.
Bill, it's kind of funny we're coming back around to this, but I remember and going on one of your first shows I'd done with you, and it was funny we were talking about this situation anyway, and you have been high on the thought of Chip Kelly at one point as the Gators head coach for Florida. He knew, and now that could be a possibility. And this was even well before McElwain and Florida parted ways. Once he got rid of the NFL job, Chip Kelly, you thought, this would be, if there was one guy you wanted to see, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but I think I remember this. If there was one guy you wanted to see roam those Florida sidelines for the fun aspect, it would be Chip Kelly.
Yeah. What he would do with that offense in short order. I don't know if Kadarius Toney would be the quarterback or what, but man, would it be fun to watch. And they get going pretty quick. Now, he's not a real 26-hour-a-day recruiting dude. They would get good players. It might not be one of those top 5 classes that I demand Florida get every year, because I think they ought to have that kind of class. Top 3, actually. But I think it would work well on the field. Now, what you're not going to get out of Chip Kelly is, in the South, we're kind of peculiar. We ask a lot of things of our coaches. We want them to go on the summer golfing tour. We want them on the rubber chicken circuit. We want them to sign autographs a little bit more than most people. We want to tug on them and idolize them a little bit more than other parts of the country. So he's not real good at that, and he's not a nice guy. So I understand winning would completely erase any of that, but he's not Mr. I love the SEC and I love this place and I want to hug everybody guy. He's a cranky dude. He's a very good coach. I think a better fit for him would be like a UCLA, out there where they don't give a rip. I mean, the fan base is fun, but they're not out there trying to claw at the coach all the time. To me, that would be a better fit. But, I think he'd do a very good job at Florida, too. And you're right. I remember I used to say that, like, God help the SEC if Chip Kelly ever got his hands on, like, the Florida job. Wow.
I could just imagine what you were saying. I can imagine SEC media days, and just by chance Florida and Alabama being on the same day, and him seeing that crowd that follows Nick Saban around.
I remember a funny story. But I was at Sirius XM. We were in, I think it was 2010, and it was Oregon Auburn. And it was one of the days, it was Oregon's day, a few days before the championship, where the media has Oregon, the coaches. And what they had is they had like the head coach, Chip Kelly, at a podium. They had a few players at another podium, and spread out all over this big arena. I don't even remember where it was, somewhere out there in Phoenix. And Chris Childers started asking Chip some questions and tried to be a little bit cute and funny. And he got dressed down pretty good. Chris did. I mean, yeah, right in front of everybody. So that's, Chip's going to do his thing, man.
So we brought up Chip Kelly, but do you feel who are other couple guys that you would like to see on the Florida sideline? From a coverage standpoint, that makes Florida a top program. It's college football. I'm looking at it from a Gator side, but for us Gator fans, it's fun when Florida's good, of course. And I would think for college football, you have certain programs that it's a lot more fun to talk about when they're good. Who are a couple of names out there, Bill, that you would like to see on that Florida sideline, just kind of from a coverage standpoint, that would turn this program around?
Well, I've got two that I like. And I know the fans want you to say Vince Lombardi or Bear Bryant, right? I mean, if you can't give me John Wooden or Bear Bryant, I don't want anybody. I understand. But you've got to be really smart, and you have to project, because the next wave, even if it's only a couple of really good coaches, are there somewhere. You just got to pull them, watch them, and decide that they're right for you. So I've got two. And some of this is Captain Obvious stuff. Scott Frost, who I think obviously everybody thinks is prominent in this Florida job as far as being on the A-list. And the other guy I love is Mike Norvell at Memphis. Offensively, these guys are smart, maybe even better than smart. They understand matchups. They understand X's and O's. I think they're tough. They're both pretty doggone young, which I don't think is that big of a deal, but very youthful. And I think they would be very, very good recruiters. I think they understand it. And they develop quarterbacks. And I know we've been told that before, but they really do. They develop quarterbacks. Defense is, I think, at Florida, still going to be a consistent strength for them, no matter who the new guy is. I'm going to take that for granted a bit. But it's all about the offense. And you got to remember when Scott Strickland said, when I used to watch Florida, when I was at other places, it was all about fun. It looked fun. That's what that means. It's offense. That's obviously what that means. And so those are my two guys. I think the other guys that I like a Matt Campbell or Coach Brom, there's either a buyout that's ridiculous or geographically, I might consider them somewhere else. Those two of the youth group, those would be my guys, and I don't think I would have a problem with either one. Now, would that be the long resume guy who's been winning titles that everybody wants? No, but that guy doesn't exist. That guy's not available. Right. There's nobody, even with Urban Myers, was once an assistant at Notre Dame, took Bowling Green, took Utah, and now he's there's nobody even like that. Okay? Dan Mullen doesn't have that resume.
Bill, let me get your thoughts about him, because he is a hot button topic for Florida fans. Some want him because of his history at Florida and his history of developing quarterbacks and winning at Mississippi State, when many think out there that a coach can't win out there like he has been in the past. But some don't like the attitude. Some, some rumors of history with Florida, how he didn't get along with the administration there. Do you think Dan Mullen could be successful at Florida?
Yeah, I think he'd do a good job. I like Dan. I've had no problems with him. He's a little quirky. And I know a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff when he was at Florida and at Mississippi State, but nothing nefarious. Just,
right.
I think the leaders have clashes. Anybody listening to us right now that has a CPA, they have their own business, or a lawyer. Not everybody's coming to work every day hugging. There's differences of opinion. There's clashes. Sometimes people get mad and quit. I don't care what line of work, radio or your doctor's office. It's the same thing as football. I think he'd do a good job. I don't know if that's the direction I would go. If they end up hiring him, let me tell you what they'd be. They'd be incredibly solid, fundamentally, on both sides of the ball. They would get back to more of the, and not Tim Tebow, but the Zoe style offensively, which is very exciting. They would be explosive, and they would be well coached. I don't know. I'm like you. I don't know if that's something that he and the missus would like to get back into, but I don't think that he thinks he's forever going to be in Start Vegas either. So that one will be interesting too.
Yeah, I think so too, to see where he ends up, because I don't think he'll be there much longer either. Bill King from the Bill King Show joining us here on Gators Backdown. Just a couple more thoughts before we let Bill out of here. And Bill, in your opinion, how fast can this be turned around for Florida? And one thing I want to go back and look at, it can be argued, and it's starting to come out now, that this program is a little worse than when McElwain took over for Will Muschamp. So I think you look at where the roster is and where it was when he took over, and you go by positions a little bit. Will Muschamp left him a quarterback. Now we know what happened there with Will Greer. Right there with the defense that carried his first two seasons, and now Jim McElwain's guys are in there, and the program, right now this season kind of in shambles. So I don't think it's far-fetched to say that the program is a little worse now than when McElwain took it over.
Two things. The biggest problem is the East now has a strong number one in Georgia, and that's not going to change. As a matter of fact, I think their talent's even going to get better with the way they're recruiting. It's going to be maintained at a high level. Now, look, they're running into a tough game at Auburn this weekend, so I'm not crowning them 12-0 yet. I'm just saying that's going to be a juggernaut. You just need to understand that. That's going to be a hellacious roster. It's going to be a top 3 recruiting class every year, and they're going to be incredibly fundamental and well coached. That's the first problem. Number 2, I think the best situation is it's still a bad Eastern Division. So the number 2 slot's wide open. Anybody who wants to show up and go to work probably can be in the 2 slot in that division right now. What's Tennessee got? We don't even know, right? And I don't think Tennessee's personnel is any better than Florida's. And I don't think anybody else's is either in the East. So the 2 slots available immediately. It's going to be a battle. It's going to come down to Jacksonville probably every year if they get the right coach, which is exactly what you want. I mean, you're going to face tough talent, and I think that's what they're up against. But I do think that the first year you can have a guy that could go 9-3, 8-4. It might not make everybody happy, but you're probably not going to go straight to 10-2, 11-1. And then after that, you can just keep building and be better and better. And I don't think it's like Ron Zook left him in year 2. You're winning a natty. I don't think it's going to look like that. But I think. Look, there are some jobs that are inherently quick turnaround gigs. Florida's one of them. Tennessee, for example, is. It's a good job. It's a really good job, but it takes time to rebuild a place like that. Florida's one of them. Alabama, you can flip really, really quick. There's another one. Southern Cal, you can flip quick. There's about 6 or 7 of them that new guy comes in, it doesn't take long. Most of them, you're trying to get everybody to buy into that 4 and 5 year thing.
Bill, last thing we did, we know some other SEC jobs that probably be coming open. You have Texas A&M, who probably looks like they're maybe on the way out with Kevin Sumlin. Arkansas may be making a change. Tennessee's definitely going to be making a change. How do you think those other jobs affect the Florida search?
I don't think they overlap at all. If A&M takes one of the up-and-comers, it's probably SMU's Chad Morris. He's an Aggie. That's his dream job. I don't know if that's the way it's going to be, but that would be their pick, I would think, from that group of the young names we've talked about, of the coaches that are looking for that next jump up. So I don't see that one as a problem. Obviously, Arkansas, if something were to happen there, and I'm not convinced it is this year, there's no overlap there. I don't think there's any overlap with Tennessee at all. Now, I'll say this, Jimmy Sexton is going to be the most powerful guy here because he's going to play. He's going to play one school off another. That's his job, right? So that'll be happening. But to me, if you're Florida, you're searching as if you are the top choice, because I think you are. It's the best gig, and you go according that way. I wouldn't worry about anybody else. I don't think, and unless it's some guy that just has been singing Rocky Top his whole life, right? I don't think you're going to, all things equal, take Tennessee over Florida. If I'm Scott Frost, I'm not going to Rocky Top before I drive down the street to Gainesville. That's not happening. Mike Norvell's there in Memphis. Memphis is 7-8 hours from Knoxville. You're talking about tip ends of the state. I don't know if that's a possibility or not. It might be, particularly if Florida does end up wanting him or hiring him. But no, Florida's the top choice.
Yeah, the thing about Frost, I mean, the Nebraska job probably coming open, and also we just learned Trace Armstrong, former Gator, is his agent. So, you brought up Jimmy Sexton there. If Frost doesn't go to Florida, then yeah, they really get into the Sexton sweepstakes there.
Well, and yeah, because and they're both CAA now. I mean, it'd be like two superpowers, worldwide superpowers join. That's what's happened there. But yeah, good point. And the Nebraska job absolutely will open up. I mean, Mike Riley was a terrible hire. I mean, an awful hire from the beginning. They took the nice guy because Bo was a mean guy, and it was a disaster from the beginning. There is no doubt they've got to go get a coach. Now, Scott Frost, and I'll be quick, people need to do their homework there. He loved that place, but his beginning there was not good. He started off at Stanford because they had Tommy Frazier and also Brooke Behringer on the roster. Now, his brother was out there at Stanford, too, and his brother's still out there, works for Google, actually, and he's a public address announcer at Stanford now. But it did not work well for Scott, so he came back to Nebraska, and he caught a lot of resistance from that roster. I mean, a lot of it. And his first year was 95, and he was a scout team quarterback, and he had to earn his way. Now, he did, because they won a national title with him in 97. So the ending was great, and he loves that place. The beginning wasn't so good. So there's a lot to that story, by the way.
Yep. Bill, I can't thank you enough for joining me here on Gators Breakdown.
Yeah, you're gonna be with me here in like 2 hours anyways, right?
I know, yeah. We're gonna set the clock and get it going. But as Bill mentioned, I do join Bill on the Bill King Show every Tuesday morning, so you can check that out there. Share it with you guys a lot, but you can catch Bill on the WNSR app because not much of us are in Nashville, Bill, so they can catch you from 7 to 10 Eastern Monday through Friday on WNSR. They can get the app and listen to the best college football show out there.
Big fan of yours, Dave. Keep it up, buddy.
All right, Bill, thanks very much. And remember, folks, I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Thanks for listening to this episode of Gators Breakdown.